Hello, fellow readers. It's Editing Stephanie and Megara. And I just wanted to pop in to say I was originally planning on using this StoryGraph review as part of my tier ranking all the books that I read in 2021 video. However, it was just getting kind of long, so I decided that I want to split them up instead. So this video is going to be the review of my 2021 StoryGraph to kind of see what types of books I read in the current, or I guess past year. And then next week I will actually post me going and ranking all of them. I'm very excited to show you guys that video. I just thought it would be better to split it up for the time being, just so my video isn't like hours long. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this video, kind of seeing my stats for the year and gain a better understanding of what tastes I like. I'm so excited to share it with you. All right, let's get on to the video then. So I'm going to switch over to the StoryGraph account and show you a little bit of what I read in the year. So as you can see, my goal for the year was 150 books and 50,000 pages, which I met both of those. I ended up reading 200 books in 2021 and about 58,000 pages. Next, the moods that I read. You can see it's a lot of adventurous, some emotional, some lighthearted, some mysterious and dark, and then a lot with less percentages. So very interesting. It makes sense that my top is adventurous because I do like books that are like really fast paced, like there's always something happening. So that makes sense. And it's interesting that emotional is my next one. I guess I'm just an adventurous, emotional person. Moving on to the pace, it makes sense going along with this adventurous that, you know, I'd like quicker or medium paced books, but I'm actually kind of surprised that I read 23% slow books, because I will tell you now that I do not enjoy slow books. So that's interesting that I would expect this to be smaller, but 45 books. Interesting. I wonder what they are. I guess we'll see. Next, for page number, I think this makes a lot of sense. I would say most of the books that I read are probably like this 300 to 400 pages, so that makes sense that this is my largest portion. Almost 50% of the books I read are in this bucket. And then this less than 300, I guess also makes sense because I read a lot of like graphic novels in the current year, which those like tend to be shorter, like maybe 200 to 300 pages. So that makes sense. And let's see, 21 books that were 500 plus. I can't think of what those would be. The only one I can think of is like Crescent City, but I don't know what the other ones are. So that's interesting. This nonfiction versus fiction makes a lot of sense. I don't read much nonfiction at all. And the ones that are in here are probably like self-help kind of books rather than like actual nonfiction, like history kind of things. So I guess that makes sense. Yeah, this makes perfect sense. 96% fiction. Yeah, that's pretty on point. And then genres. So my largest genre is young adult, which definitely makes sense. In the current year, I started trying to get into like romance and like mystery thrillers a little bit more. So you can see that kind of trending a little bit higher, which it wouldn't have in the previous years. But I would say, yeah, young adult is still pretty consistent with what I read. Next one is fantasy, which also makes sense. I guess I feel like I've been trending out of more fantasy, but like that's still what interests me the most. So it makes sense that it's up here as well. And then, like I mentioned, romance is a new genre that I was trying to like get into a little bit more, so that makes sense that was so high. And I'm kind of surprised, I guess if you add mystery and thriller together, you'd get like 22, which makes it right here under science fiction. So if I always think of them kind of like together, like I understand the differences between the genres, but like when I think of it, I'm just like mystery thriller. So if those two are added together, then it would be a little bit higher, which is more consistent with what I was thinking. But looks like I've got quite a bit to grow to meet up with some of these higher ones. So that's a goal, I guess, for this next year. Read more mystery thriller. Like I mentioned, I read a lot of graphic novels in the current year, so that's makes sense why it's so high up here. So my top 5 categories are young adult, fantasy, romance, contemporary, and LGBTQIA, which makes perfect sense to me. That's a lot of what I read in the current year, so makes sense. And then let's see. Format, they added format mid-year, and so I didn't go back and change all of the ones that I had previously that were all just imported as print. So this isn't necessarily 100% correct, but to me it does make sense. Digital and audio are about equal. And then I think print is a little bit skewed just because I didn't go back and edit how I listened or read all of the books that I read in the year. But hopefully for this next year, it will be a more helpful stat. On to this next one, most read authors. I was trying to get through a lot of series this year, so I can definitely see that in my most read authors. I read a lot of like Throne of Glass and A Court of Thorns and Roses, so Sarah J. Maas is by far my top author. And then I was also trying to get through some of the Disney books, and so those are written by like Serena and Liz, I think a couple other people, but these are the 2 people that popped up on my most read authors, so that makes sense since I was trying to get through all of those books as well. I went through a like Rick Riordan phase, so that makes sense as well. I think all of those make sense based on the series that I was trying to finish in the year. And then number of books and pages. This is very interesting to look at because you can definitely tell what was going on in my life at each time, and like it correlates exactly to how like books and pages are. So with my job, we go through like really busy seasons. And so in February, you can see I read 1 book in the entire month of February. And that is because I was super busy during that time period. And then same thing with June. You can see it's lower as well because of that same reason. It's a little bit higher than February, but still you can see it's a valley compared to some of these peaks. May really randomly is just really high, I guess. I'm trying to think of what was happening in May. Like it was right before a busy season at work. So other than that, I can't think of why it would be super high. And you can also see that December is pretty high because I was trying to meet my goal for the year in December. You can also see the disparity between the pages read and the books read, which evidences that I was reading a lot of shorter books to try to meet that goal. So makes complete sense. And the last little graph here is my average rating. I started using StoryGraph mid-year. So in Goodreads, you can only have like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, versus in StoryGraph, you can have every like 0.25 you can rate it. So this data is again a little skewed just because I didn't go back and edit any of the stars that I gave beforehand, but I'd say that this is still pretty consistent with my general rating. I very rarely, I guess only 1 book, give 1 stars. I just I really have to hate the book to give it a 1 star. 2 through like 2.75 are books that I just like, I feel like they were probably good for someone, or like there was, I don't know, it just wasn't like a 1 star. Like it wasn't that awful, but I also just like didn't enjoy the time reading it. So those are there. I would say most of the books that I rate are in between like 3 and 4 stars, which is consistent with what we're seeing here. Anything like 3 to 4 or 3 to like 3.75 are like, it was a good book. I enjoyed my time, but like it wasn't exceptional. It didn't wow me for some reason. So those are most books I would say that I read. And then 4 stars is like, yeah, it was pretty good. Like it did a little bit more for me than things in 3 stars. And then as we go up, it's just like gets better and better. So let's see. It looks like I have 31 5 stars in 2021. That's interesting. I didn't expect there to be so many 5 stars, but like I know I definitely put the Heartstopper series all as 5 stars. So there's 3 already. Like, I'm trying to think of what else could have been in there. But that's higher than I would have expected. But I guess so. All right, so that is an overview of my reading for the year. All right, well, thank you so much for watching this video. Both Meg and I say thank you. And if you want to add me as a friend on Goodreads or on StoryGraph, please see my information below. Let me know below, what were your top genres for the year? What are the types of books that you like to read? How many books did you get to finish in 2021, and what's your goal for 2022? Hopefully we can all meet those goals together. If you liked this video, then please like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next week to go through some tier ranking of all the books themselves. Until next time, keep reading.